The formula for business is P equals R minus E. In common language, revenue minus expenses is what your profits are. Or in our parlance, revenue collected minus expenses paid equals what you can take home to put food on the table. How is it that you get started in practice? Well, using this formula of R minus E reminds me of a discussion I had with a former client where you have two approaches to starting the business. One is you go get the clients. You get the promise of work, and then you start building from there. The other side of the equation is you build the structure first. You get the staff, you get the facility, whatever else you need, and then you go look for clients. You go look for the business. My own personal orientation is to look at the revenue side of the equation first. First, go get the business. Then you can worry about how you're going to do the business. Business doesn't exist by itself. You first have to have a customer. You first have to have a client. You have to first have an engagement before you can have a business. So my own orientation is to first go get the client. And the issue here is, how are you going to get the client? What clients do you have currently if you're moving from an existing firm to a sole practice? Who will hire you? What practice areas do you want to work in? What target market do you want to appeal to? Who is it that you know? What industry expertise do you have that you can focus on as an easy way, sort of low-hanging fruit, as an easy way to get started? What are the marketing tactics that you can employ most effectively and least expensively in order to get the business coming into the door? And toward that element, I would encourage you to take a look at a new book just released by the American Bar Association's Law Practice Management section, written by Theda Snyder. It is called Marketing on a Shoestring, and very well done. It's in the 3rd edition. I happen to know Teddy personally and recommend the book highly. So once you've got revenue coming in, now let's look at some of the expenses. First, obviously, is rent. You've got to have a physical facility in which to do work. That physical facility could be your home. It could be shared space. It could be as a sub-renter, sublease. It could be a small office in what's called a barrister suite, a floor of an office, a floor of a building, or several floors in a building, built out by a developer specifically to rent to professionals on a one-by-one basis. These tend to be on a month-to-month basis, so you're not locked in for a long-term lease, but whatever the arrangements are, sometimes this is a less expensive way of establishing a physical presence. Take a look at insurance. Be sure that you have what's called general liability insurance policy for fire and personal injury and that kind of thing, but also take a look at your errors and omissions insurance policies. There are a number of policies available. In some states, the market is quite competitive. In other states, it's not, unfortunately. Take a look at what's available to you. If you are a recent law school graduate, there are some very inexpensive policies available. And if you're a more seasoned lawyer that has had malpractice insurance coverage, you will get the lowest rate possible, although it's not inexpensive in my experience. And here comes another issue that I think it's about 24 states now have enacted a rule of professional conduct that requires you to disclose to your client if you do not have malpractice insurance. There's been a big brouhaha on that. I have been a strong advocate against that rule. In my own state, I lost that battle. But take a look at what the requirements are in your state before you move forward on that. And then you're going to have to make your own conclusion as to whether that's important. Now, many clients don't care. And other clients will just read it and not pay any attention to it. So it depends. Make your own evaluation. I think it happens to be quite important as a negative in the marketing to prospective clients. Others have said they don't agree with me. Another element to consider is library cost. And here we're fortunate with technology because we don't have to have an extensive library. Number one, if you have to have the physical, tactile library book or case, what have you, you can go to the county law library, you can go to your local law school library, and they generally have a very good assortment of resources for you. But in this case, as I said, technology has been a blessing for us because there's tremendous online resources that never used to exist. So with CDs, with the internet and so forth, you can have access very, very inexpensively. Next is the staff. And here, the principle of leverage I've talked about before, I think is very important. To the extent that you can pay somebody to either do research for you or do drafting or what have you, to the extent you can do that, in today's world, with so many talented people being out of work, you can get work done for you at a very small cost relative to what you're able to bill out. So use the principle of delegation here. Use the principle of outsourcing very effectively at modest cost. It will be a cost to you of less than 1/3 of the total revenue you build. And with that in mind, it enables you then to do more marketing for more work. With respect to associates, in addition to outsourcing, you can hire contract lawyers, folks who either don't want to work full-time, that is 120 hours a week, or want to have some independence, whether because they're raising a family or because they're writing a book, or as I used to do, ride my bike. Whatever the cause is, they're available to you. This gets us back to the beginning. What do you do first? Get the client, get the business, or set up the underlying structure to be able to complete work on the projects that you get. This, of course, depends on your own psyche. This depends on your own experience, what you're most comfortable with. When I'm working with my clients in the coaching environment, I always encourage them to sort of, well, when I'm working with my clients in the coaching environment, I will first try to figure out what their comfort zone is. Once I know that, then I can advise you what to do. But my own predilection is to look for the revenue side first. Now, in my own career, I've taken on the metaphor of the amoeba. You know how the amoeba works a little bit here, and then it works a little bit there, and then it brings it up in the middle, and so forth. So that's kind of how I would look at this. I would look at what kind of structure I need, what kind of structure is available to me, move down that path a little bit, but then also focus on the revenue. Because when everything is said and done, you want to make sure that you don't encourage expenses where you're not getting revenue in to cover those. So in today's world, where going solo is becoming ever more the prevalent way for recent graduates to deal with the depression/recession, these are some tips that I think will help you get started.